This is number 2 in my small videos about sustainability. Now I will define sustainability and present it as an ideology. I will share the screen so you can see my slides. So it will be about sustainability as an ideology and my position. Sustainability has evolved into a kind of an ideology. By ideology, I mean concepts and theories that declare what is, that contains normative statements of what should be, and supports one of the groups of society, typically through legitimizing them and their actions. Sustainability as an ideology contains the norm that every generation has to act in a manner that do not limit the choices of the next generation. The most conventional definition of sustainability is from the Brundtland definition, and I cite, sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. While this could be a definition of a specific type of process, it also contains the value that sustainability is good, that thus it contains a norm. Sustainability has been developed into a whole system of thoughts where the sustainability has been divided, for example, into economic, social, and environmental dimensions. These conception and variations of it has today characteristics of being an established system of thoughts declaring what is, but also what should be, and by doing so is able to guide both the human understanding and human action. Thus, it has turned into an ideology. Indeed, it has been claimed to be, and I cite, a robust alternative worldview to the industrial neoliberal paradigm. End of citation. It is sometimes claimed that sustainability is not a perspective and not an ideology, but a necessity. Thus, it is an ideology that, according to the concept of Gramsci, has become hegemonic. That is, taken for granted in society to an extent that a criticism of the ideology is considered to be an act that is hard to understand. Indeed, some would say, and I say, don't you think sustainability is a good thing? End of citation. Others consider the criticism of sustainability that is leveled by outsiders, outcasts, rebels, roughly, that in reality isn't criticizing sustainability, but use the critique as a mean by doing what they need to do, and that is criticizing in order to sustain their character of being an outcast. So criticizing sustainability is part of their sustainability as outcasts. While the hegemony of sustainability demands conformity, the critique of sustainability objects conformity. This ideology is supported by very strong social forces that produce and reproduce its hegemonic character. International political organizations such as United Nations has program for sustainability. United Nations has its Agenda 2030 that, for example, contains PRME, which implied that business schools and universities with programs in business integrate the Agenda 2030 in its education. Thus, even universities are promoting the ideology of sustainability. So the universities are active in reproducing the ideology. All those that belong to PRME are reproducing the ideology. Today, not only the single university professors are taking a stand, but also universities as organizations. The sociology professor, if being alive, which he isn't, would envy this development, really envy. Not for its contents, because he would think it's conservative and not progressive, but for its power to have become hegemonic. My position concerning university education concerning sustainability is that it is warranted when it is teaching about sustainability, about sustainability as a phenomenon that exists in society and therefore should be studied, explained, understood, and described through our scientific method. But contrary to those claiming teaching for sustainability, as with all ideologies, universities should not engage in teaching for sustainability as a must and a should, that is, a norm. Universities are organizations for scientific knowledge about society. They are not organizations aimed at reproducing any ideology, how good or bad it can be. In research, I followed the Weberian notion that politics is about declaring goals, while action-oriented science explored the different ways and their level of efficiency in reaching those goals without promoting any way. Academics create knowledge, while society choose knowledge that fits society. Of course, given the fact of Myrdal again, it is trivial to note that science contains values and that scientists carry values that influence them in their studies. But it is as trivial to claim that we have to be aware of these values and we have to fight as much as possible to keep values out of science, or at least, as Myrdal promoted, to make them explicit. The fact that science contains values cannot be an argument for flooding science with values, and the existence of values in science do not legitimize their existence. So, that is my position as an academic. But is that a reasonable position? Can it be accepted? Several questions can be leveled that imply a critique of this position. One question: should universities be autonomous from society, producing scientific knowledge driven by the profession's evaluation of knowledge needed, or should it be an integral part supporting the society with production of scientific knowledge directed by society, or should the researchers even be actors in society? The second question is a more academic one. Is my subject, economics, or more specific business administration and continuing accounting and finance, is my subject free from ideological elements and teaching, and do we not teach ideologies? The third question is my subject economics, or more specific than business administration? Do we have elements of sustainability, but we are not really declaring it as sustainability? That is, that we are teaching not about sustainability, but for sustainability, but without using the word. To these questions, I will now turn in a self-critical assessment of my position. So I start with the first question. Defining sustainability. Sustainability is a word that connotes a very nebulous concept, and it is at best, I cite, a pluralistic paradigm, end of citation, despite the fact that the research, with its natural demand of clear and precise definition of concept, has developed exponentially in published research since about 2010. In fact, some claim that it is easy to show that many definitions of sustainability are even absurd. But the nebulous concept could also be a strength, especially when it concerns sustainability. If we had a very concise, well-defined concept of sustainability, it would very clearly include certain phenomena and exclude others. But since our overall knowledge of, for example, consequences of nature and humans are very small relative to the actual consequences, we have a huge uncertainty in understanding consequences. If we, by a nebulous concept, study issues that by a very precise definition would exclude some consequences of the issue, we would not find consequences that a more loosely defined concept would be able to find. So uncertainty in our knowledge makes it almost adequate to have a nebulous definition of sustainability, since nebulous is what our knowledge is. On the third hand, a nebulous concept opens for endless fights about definitions, which will consume a lot of researchers' energy, which hardly will fulfill any criteria of sustainability. And not the least, with bad nebulous definitions, we run probably higher risk of having concepts that contains hidden values. A classical definition of sustainability is as cited above, the Brundtland definition that states present state of our affairs should not hinder the next generation to satisfy their needs. It says that today should not compromise the future ability. That sounds like Robert Crawley, the seventh Earl of Grantham, in the famous TV series Downton Abbey, when he says to his daughter, daughter, my fortune is the work of others who labor to build a great dynasty. Do I have the right to destroy their work or impoverish that dynasty? I am a custodian, my dear, not an owner. I must strive to be worthy of the task I've been set. End of citation. Notice that this is the Earl, a rather conservative person, that declares the sustainability of the dynasty. The classical definition is a rather peculiar definition for me, both in science for me as an economist and in politics for me as a modernist. Modernism carries the conception of the economist's investment, that is, to sacrifice today in order to reap more benefits tomorrow. The investment category and the modernist ideology says that today is probably, and I say probably because that indicates risk, that today is probably better than yesterday, but tomorrow will probably, again, due to the risk, be better than today. That means that with an investment and by following the modernist continuous improvement project, the future generation will, probably due to the risk, get more possibilities and experience more alternatives. Through the modernist investment, we influence the coming generations through enlarging the future possibilities of the coming generation to satisfy their needs. Contrary to the modernist idea, the sustainability definition appears to imply a preservation and not an expansion. One could say that the definition put an end to the modern project and becomes a preservation project, which is a conservative project. Some say Gray 2010 claims that sustainability is a paradox since it is conservative against nature but modernist towards society, since its actions are focused in preserving nature but changing and controlling society. That is not really correct, since to control society for the sake of conservation is not modernism, but to have a social constructivist attitude directed towards conservatism, which is the approach of the Earl of Grantham. The conservation is expressed in the demand to conserve the plants and animal species of today. It is not yesterday's species that should be conserved. Those claiming sustainability do not demand the return of the Neanderthal human, although the human sapiens probably, that is we, probably is responsible for the extinction of the Neanderthal human. But their issue is the conservation, the sustainability of human sapiens. This position of sustainability is absurd, since to claim the preservation of plants and species imply the end of evolution. What is meant is probably that human sapiens should not be as a powerful part of the evolution that we are today, that we should reduce our influence on the evolution. Thus, it is sustainability within the dynamic force of evolution. But if we are guided by a human morality claiming that we should take care of humans, if necessary, at the expense of nature, we have to be an active actor in the evolution. With this morality, it's absurd to claim the conservation of the mosquitoes that gives malaria, or conservation of the parasite African eyeworm that can make people blind and increase the mortality. With this human morality, it is acceptable to do what we humans have done since our first appearance, to be active actor in the evolution by not accepting the limitation by nature, but by creating new plants and new types of animals through genetic manipulation that can give us more secure food supply. Through this rather simple critique of sustainability, I have then reduced it from its strong form to its weak form, but still the conceptive aura surrounds sustainability. The sustainability is conservative in that it assumes and accepts both market economy and an ideal form of capitalism, disregarding, for example, the varieties of capitalism, suggesting actions of sustainability that use and therefore accept market economy and capitalism in order to implement sustainability, but without questioning them as forces of non-sustainability. It could be claimed, as indeed the old sociology professor would claim, that market economy and especially many forms of capitalism promote class society, which is a characteristic of society that reduces the social dimension of sustainability. It does not preserve capacities of action, it reduces. Thus, it has been suggested that to overcome one of these conservative orientation, sustainability should be transformed into what's called critical sustainability, for example, by Rose and Cashlin in 2018. Let me take one example from my country. We have had since the 80s a heated debate about our energy system, where first the ecological and now the sustainability of the energy system has been in focus. On the other hand, the Swedish school system have been privatized with private profit-seeking schools, and where the schooling itself has become a market where parents choose schools for their kids. During this process, the standard of knowledge among pupils have been significantly reduced, but in an uneven distribution where low-class pupils and immigrant pupils have significantly lower knowledge than the middle-class and upper-class pupils, since they, for their choice of schools, have selected schools with higher quality, especially the quality of the pupils. Thus, the marketization of the schools in Sweden has, together with some other forces such as the housing segregation, strengthened class society and by that reduced the lower classes' opportunities to a good life. This is, in terms of sustainability, clearly not in accordance with the social dimension of sustainability, since it is, and I say, compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. End of citation. But I have never heard anyone, not even those in the Green Party that should be very carrying the sustainability idea, that stress sustainability to discuss the schools and the schooling system in terms of sustainability. The actual process of the degrading of the knowledge of lower class pupils in Sweden should be an important matter of sustainability in Sweden, but it is not. Probably because it points towards basic organizational features of the society, which only those engaged in critical sustainability deals with. The second critique, which I will only mention small, is that the definition of sustainability contains the concept of needs that is hard to operationalize. It is hard, if it is possible, to imagine the needs of the future generations. Thus, we cannot know today what we can do today that will not influence by reducing or enlarging the future generations' capacity to satisfy their needs. What we do is assuming that the future generation will have the same needs and the same preferences as we have. This is, indeed, the view of the 7th Earl of Grantham, or conservative attitude. With this definition of sustainability and the critique of it as being conservative, that implies that universities that accept sustainability as a leading principle for their teaching, not about but for sustainability, using this concept with its conservative connotation, run the risk of being an active, conservative, indoctrinating power in society. And that is the opposite of our mission, which is to be a critical agent in society. So, that was my definition of sustainability and my critique of sustainability as a conservative concept. Next, I will go in to inspect if we are not teaching